Welcome to Titan HST's Business Continuity Today, hosted by Todd DeVoe, where planning meets reality.
Good morning. I'm Todd DeVoe. I'm the Director of Emergency Services at Titan HST, and I have been involved in responding to emergencies and disasters, since 1989. In addition to the work I do at Titan HST, I'm an educator, teach at the post-secondary level, and learning and sharing what I learn is a passion for me. So welcome to Business Continuity Today, where together we will learn together. Together we'll learn together. Redundant. But today we're talking about, why saying no can lead you to yes faster. But before I get into this, as for some of you out there understand that tomorrow is a very special holiday in the world of the United States Marine Corps. It is the Marine Corps' birthday, so Semper Fi and happy birthday to all my Marine Corps buddies and brothers out there, and to all the Navy corpsmen that served in the Marines. Same thing, Semper Fi, brothers. All right, and sisters, don't forget about that. All right, so today let's talk about why saying no can lead you to yes faster. See, the idea that we can do everything, it's a myth, right? It's really this terrible myth that's been pushed upon us for many years. And so it's the idea that you show up and somehow you're a superstar. You can come in with all the answers. You can change the culture of an organization and make all the decisions. And it's just not real. It doesn't really make sense, right? These kind of ideas get you overwhelmed. You do some things well, some things not so well, and the jack of all trades, if you will, or some people call it the Swiss Army knife of doing things. What I like to say about Swiss Army knives is they look nice, they all have a bunch of tools, but none of them really work well. So when it comes to our line of work, we have to make decisions during a crisis, and there needs to have a starting point, and needs to start prior to an event, right? We must learn to work with others, but we'll talk more about working with others and teamwork here in a second. So first, let's start with us, the individual, and how we need to really bring our locus of control internally, right? That we need to have a really great understanding of what our limitations are and what our strengths are. There's a book called Strength Finders, right? And in that book, they talk about the idea of really working with the individual strengths, and not necessarily that you shouldn't learn other things or learn about how to do other things, if you will, right? But the idea is like, if you're strong at one point, what we've seen happen in the past is we forget to really sharpen our sword on the strengths that we have, and we start working on the weaknesses that we have to think that will make us a stronger person. But there's reasons why we have these weaknesses, right? Some of it's aptitude, right? I am not a physicist. I will never be a physicist. I can learn all I want to learn about physics, but I just do not have the aptitude specifically for physics, right? So I think that if I was working at the university, it would be terrible for me to forget what I know about public policy and to go start learning physics so I could teach physics. It doesn't make sense. So once you have an understanding of what you're good at, you focus on that, you build that, and you really sharpen the sword on that that skill that you have. And we can discuss more about this on another day, and maybe that's another topic for one of our shows. However, knowing your strengths will allow you to focus on what you do, and that's essential for you. Greg McKeown has this book called Essentialism, and as you can tell, I read this book and tagged everything on it, and it's a very good book. And the idea here is understanding what is essential for you. Now, he goes into things about astrophysical things, like what you need to have around you, but not in that idea of like, you hold up the book and it gives you value, you keep it. If not, that's a whole different person. But the idea of it is, what does it do for you? And when you look at what's essential and you cut out what is not essential, then it makes you a stronger person, and it makes you stronger in your workforce. So you might be working in a position that doesn't fit your strengths, right? And that's okay, right? And if you understand that, maybe you should move to a position that fits you better. Your boss should move you to a position that fits you better. And I know it's hard sometimes. I'm not judging. However, this would be better for you and the organization in the long run. If you think about Jim Collins, when he talks about putting the right people on the bus and figuring out where they'll sit later, I think that's important as well, because you bring strengths to the organization, right? Now, at the essence of this, how do we get to where I say saying no will get you to yes? This is where this is. When you say no to doing something that you're not good at, right? Again, like I was saying, somebody says, "Hey, Todd, we need you to run the data science section of the business." But I don't know that. I don't have a strength in that. I could go to YouTube, I suppose, and learn about it. But if I'm like, "Hey, it's going to take me more effort to get to understanding what the data science and how this works than it is to say, hire somebody that comes in that understands data science, right?" Saying no actually gets the company and gets the organization to that yes quicker, to a better understanding of what this is, right? Um, it also gets you to a yes quicker when it comes to the skill sets and the strengths that you have, right? So we must explore, right, and evaluate what those things are. So you must ask the question, right? Will this activity or effort make the highest possible contribution towards your goals? Will this activity or effort make the highest contribution towards the company, towards the organization? If you're working in government, towards the citizens and the residents that live within your jurisdiction, is what you're doing going to make the highest possible contribution? If you cannot answer yes to that, then you have to say no, right? If it does not fit, then you must eliminate that activity. Maybe, and when I say eliminate it for you. So for instance, right, if we have fire prevention and they go to the law enforcement guys and say, "Hey, we're going to have you do fire prevention stuff," that doesn't make sense. They should eliminate that task, what they were just tasked with, and give it back to the right department, whereas that would be the fire department, right? So this activity or task hasn't been assigned to you or to your organization that doesn't fit. And if it does, then you have to make if it does fit, if it's something that you should be doing, then you have to make a plan and you have to understand how you're going to execute that activity or task. And again, getting to yes, saying no to get to yes. So you eliminate stuff that is not essential, right? And then you make a plan for that is essential, and you get how to execute that task to get to yes. So for an example, I was at an organization and the facilities director didn't want to keep OSHA and want to get rid of the hazardous material program that was under his control. And it's a really, I mean, if you guys have ever dealt with OSHA, there's a lot of stuff that's associated with it. That's, check boxes and things like this, right? And at a meeting in front of all the administrators, he attempted to punt that program over to emergency management and safety, right? And safety in this case is AKA security, campus safety, right? At the time, my department doesn't handle any hazardous materials. I mean, if there was something like a spill, maybe we put a campus safety officer over there to keep people away from it, but we didn't do any cleaning. We didn't do anything like this. We were not a hazard material group, right? We ended up calling the fire department to come out and do something like this, or facilities, right? So we weren't even, and really realistically, it doesn't have anything to do with what we did. So, and we weren't even part of the risk department, right? It's a whole another area on the campus. So none of us would have a clue what to do, right? And then the other side of it too is anything that was hazardous material was under this guy's control. He did maintenance. His organization, University Services, took care of maintenance. They took care of the fields. They took care of the paint. They took care of all that stuff. And so why would we control the OSHA and hazardous materials program when we didn't have any control over any of the materials that we would need to administer, right? So of course, trying to be a team player, some people would say, "Okay, well, we'll take it on because we're taking one for the team." But in this case, we wouldn't have done a good job. And in fact, we probably would have put the university into a position to where we might be violating rules and laws and people's safety. So it didn't make sense for us to do it. So in order for us to really move forward as an organization, right, it was for us as campus safety and emergency management to say, "No, this is not what we should be doing. This really belongs under university services." So at the end of the day, argued that it wasn't a core function of emergency management. It wasn't a core function of campus safety. We put out a reason why we should be doing this, and it stayed under university services because that's where it made sense to belong. So that was not an essential core service for us. So what is essential, right? It comes down to two things, right? There's two mindsets: that everything is essential or nothing is essential. So it sounds weird, right? We say everything is essential or nothing is essential. It seems very, very stark. But the idea is if everything is essential, then there's no cutting anything out of the organization, out of what you're doing. If nothing is essential, then you can really take a look at the core, what you do as a core competency, right? And cut the stuff out that isn't. So, it's about decision making at this point. See, if you take the mindset that nothing is essential, it's easy to make the decision. You can cut the things that aren't working, right? Things that you're doing poorly, things that the organization is doing poorly. And I go back to the fundamental idea of understanding what your strengths are. See, if I took on an OSHA task, how would I have been able to set my team? I would be setting my team up for failure. And if something went sideways, we would have been responsible for that mistake. And so understanding that OSHA was not essential to our core mission, it was really easy for us to say no. And understanding that nothing is essential doesn't mean that you don't do anything. It means that you have to align your goals and objectives with what you do well and what your core functions are, and then choose how you do it. See, if you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to another. A good friend of mine says it all the time. And to understand the non-essentialist is a way to say yes, that I can do both. However, if you do both well, then if you do both well, then you need to ask what other tasks need to be done for themselves. See, to the essentialist, it's not about saying yes or no to the tasks. It's about saying what are the trade-offs? What are you going and willing to give up when you take on the other tasks? Because something will fall off the plate. See, if I picked up the OSHA task, we can still perform the other tasks just as well as we've been doing. I don't know. Would it suffer if we did? I think so. So what we would have to stop in order for us to do the new task well. See, like I said, you know what's wrong with the Swiss Army knife? It has a bunch of tools. However, none of the tools perform outstandingly. See, as people, what we become when we step outside of our strengths and what we do well is just a suffering and for the next person, right? So stay within the strengths of what you do well and what I'm good at and what I know I can do and how I can contribute to the team. When I think of core functions and what we've learned at Titan HST is we have two-way mass notification company, and we're a great product that serves our customers well, and it's easy to use in a crisis, and that's what you want. And with Titan HST, we've helped save lives, we've helped find missing children, we made it easy for emergency managers to communicate with their teams and the community. And unlike other companies, Titan HST, we're not a Swiss Army knife. We do what we do well, and we don't try to do things that are outside of our box. So, like I said, in conclusion, keeping this together, know what your strengths are, know what you do well, and work to those strengths, and say no to those things that you don't do well so you can get to yes. Thank you for being with us today. And visit Titan HST for all your communication needs. And remember to follow us on your favorite podcast player, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and join us next week. And until then, stay safe and stay hydrated.